So good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining us here today. I'm Carolina Albernas, Director of Business Development and Operations at the Brazil-Canada Chamber of Commerce, and we're here today to talk about how to move our company to Canada. Just a few housekeeping rules. After the presentation, we'll have a Q&A session with the panelists. So if you have any questions during the webinar, please type them on the Q&A and we'll answer them in the end. So for those who are not familiar with the BCCC, for 47 years, we've been building relationships between Brazil and Canada, strengthening the bilateral investment and trade, best practices in mutual growth and prosperity. Our relationships are private and public, featuring managing directors and decision makers of small, large, and very large companies and institutions. And our volunteer board of directors has expertise, knowledge, and connections that can only be found by being active players in the Brazil-Canada market. We're a membership-based association that supports its members through information and networking, and we help them to identify trends and qualify rumors to ensure that the intel they're getting is correct and timely. We also give them access to our unparalleled network of contacts and support those connections with targeted introductions, sponsorship opportunities in BCCC events, brand visibility, and much more. If you want to learn more about how to be a member of the BCCC and how we can help you, please let me know. We'll be happy to connect. So talking about Canada, why Canada, right? So Canada is famous for having a very open immigration policy, as well as a huge focus on investment attraction. There are many benefits for companies, especially technology companies, to set a footprint here, as the government offers many incentives and a huge support system that can help companies succeed, scale, and go global. Global market access, low cost, unparalleled talent, and reduced risks are just a few reasons why world-leading companies are setting up shop in Canada. From 2018 to 2019, FDI into Canada increased by 18.6%, making Canada's 2019 FDI results 42.5% higher than the previous 10-year average. Brazil plays a big role in this since it's the 10th largest investor in Canada. Canada has also 14 trade agreements in place covering 60% of the world's GDP, giving Canadian companies access to 1.5 billion consumers across 51 countries. Besides that, all the incentives and opportunities available for corporations interested in investing in R&D, Canada has also been investing hard in developing a strong startups ecosystem in all its major cities, and it has been getting a lot of international attention. Canada's commitment to talent development and attraction, strong support for innovation, and low business costs make it easier for tech companies to make money. Its strong and dynamic technology ecosystem is based on three key assets: educated people, access to smart capital, so money and contacts, and government support. Greater number of graduates from top computer science and engineering programs are choosing to stay in Canada because of great fiscal environment for researchers and new businesses, not to mention the amazing quality of life and stable political systems that understand technological innovation as an economic engine. And as the government continues to invest in the sector's rapid growth, more structures and organizations are being created to inspire founders and support them along the way. So I'm honored to be here today, moderating this panel where we'll discuss the most common immigration pathways for companies, entrepreneurs, and skilled workers interested in exploring everything Canada has to offer. We have here with us Sonia Mirhaba, partner at SMB Business Immigration, Josh Schachnow, CEO and co-founder at Visto.AI, Raquel Boechat, serial entrepreneur, co-founder at Athimos healthcare platform, Think Global Bootcamp, among others, and Miryam Lazarte, CEO and co-founder at Latam Startups. So welcome and thank you for being here. We'll start with our questions. So first of all, why don't we start with you guys introducing yourselves briefly. So Sonia, why don't we start with you?
Thanks, Carolina. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. My name is Sonia Mirhaba, and I'm the principal partner at SMB Business Immigration. SMB is a boutique immigration firm out of Toronto in Canada, and we're mostly dealing with corporate immigration, business immigration pathways to Canada, as well as any other immigration processes that are involved for bringing individuals and companies to Canada. Our clients really range from startup companies to medium-sized companies to large scale-up companies, depending on what their needs are. Some of them are, they need to bring foreign workers to Canada to boost up their business activities. Some of them are transferring. Some foreign nationals are transferring their companies from outside of Canada to Canada. So it really depends on different range of activities. We help all sorts of clients with getting established in Canada. And so that's what we do, as well as, and for individuals as well, depending on what category of immigration they're looking for, we help them as well to get transferred to Canada.
Thank you, Sonia. So I'll go with Josh.
Thanks, Carolina, and thanks everybody for tuning in. My name is Josh Schachnow. I'm also a Canadian immigration lawyer. I work quite closely with Sonia and her practice, but my main focus is Visto.AI. So I co-founded a company that is a free immigration platform. So it helps individuals, skilled workers, international students, startup founders learn all the basics about Canadian immigration. We focus mostly on express entry, study permits, work permits, and the startup visa. You can check it out and sign up for free at Visto.AI. We're also a few weeks from launching our first automation tool, which will qualify individuals for more than 65 immigration programs in one place in about 10 minutes. So excited for that and excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. Raquel, with you?
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here too. Thank you for inviting me. I've been an entrepreneur for more than 20 years. I have companies in Brazil and also in Canada. I have two startups here in Canada. And my journey to plan to move started 4 years ago when I did a benchmark visit, and I really fall in love with this country. It's an amazing place. What I can say about my journey right now, well, my background is in strategic communication and journalism, but my whole life I've worked with tech companies and innovation. So I'm very pleased to be here with you and share my experience.
Thank you, Raquel. Like Miryam?
Thank you, Carolina, for the invitation, and a pleasure to be here with all of you. My name is Miryam Lazarte. I'm the CEO of Latam Startups. Latam Startups is a nonprofit accelerator based in Toronto. We are supported by the City of Toronto, members of NACO, which is the National Angel Capital Organization, and as well designated company for the Startup Visa program. So we are 100% international, supporting international startups, as well international corporations to move to Canada or to have second headquarters in Canada. We are currently located at the Ontario Center of Excellences, and we are basically looking for help international startups to put a foot in Canada, basically.
You're doing an amazing job and growing so fast.
Thank you.
So why don't we start? I'm going to start with Sonia. So can you briefly describe the most common immigration pathways for companies, entrepreneurs, and skilled workers?
Okay, that's great. We'll start with sharing my screen first, because I'm going to talk about quite some programs and I want everybody to be able to share it. Can everybody see my screen now?
We can.
Okay, perfect. So hold on a second. Okay, here we go. So the immigration programs that I'm going to talk about today, first and foremost, express entry. I'm going to leave all the details to Josh because Josh is an expert in this category. That's the most popular immigration program for Canada. It's based on points system, and it's based on lottery system too. There's a couple factors we look into that when we're talking about express entry, and so. I mean, every draw Canada has been doing every draws every 2 weeks, even during the COVID, and so it's been doing great. This program has been fantastic in absorbing skilled talent people to Canada. As I said, I leave the details to Josh. Startup Visa program, that's also another fantastic program that Canada had established a couple of years ago for startup companies to, transfer their activities to Canada. Again, about the details, the eligibility requirements, the kind of, processing time, all the details, I'm going to probably talk about it in detail a little later once we come to it. but I just wanted to mention that that's also a part of the programs that we're going to discuss today. The alternate programs that I want to kind of briefly touch up upon for entrepreneurs mainly is the owner-operator LMIA, the intra-corporate transferee for startup companies in Canada, and the global talent stream. So the owner-operator LMIA, when we're talking about LMIA, LMIA is a short form for labor market impact assessment, and that's essentially when we're working with LMIA, we're dealing with Service Canada and the Labor Department division that's sort of like assessing and processing this type of applications. So essentially entrepreneurs that are not qualified under a startup visa program for whatever reason, they could look into owner-operator LMIA. They can bring their business activities, transfer their business activities to Canada, either purchase a new business in Canada or kind of get into partnering up with current ongoing business in Canada. There are certain requirements for it with respect to the number of shares or, the majority shareholder or kind of activity or, the responsibility that you're holding in the Canadian business, which I'm gonna kind of discuss a little later. But essentially, you're coming to Canada to continue and carry on your business in Canada. The only difference that this has with Startup Visa Program is that startup kind of leads to PR, permanent residency of Canada, but owner-operator LMIA grants you a work permit. So what happens is that once you come with work permit to Canada, you have to at least work for 1 year in Canada. And then we would have to look into either express entry program for the PR application or any of the other PR programs that are existing at that point. So people who are interested in this program, they just have to be mindful of the fact that this is not leading to PR, this is leading to work permit. And then after coming to Canada, working in Canada, they'll be eligible to apply for PR. The intra-corporate transferee startup, so that's LMIA exempt. And what it means is that that's essentially for kind of larger companies that are trying to open up a shop in Canada. So let's say company ABC out of Brazil, has done research in Canada, now wants to transfer activities to Canada. They come here, lease a space. I mean, leasing a space nowadays, everybody's working online. I'm not even sure if that's one of the qualifying factors, but I mean, essentially trying to bring your activities to Canada. Signing the contracts with vendors, meet with different people, business partners. And so what the company does is typically they send their senior exec or somebody in the managerial role to sort of establish this business in Canada, start hiring employees, getting into the meeting with business partners and all that. So how that person comes to Canada is under this ICT startup program. We don't, as I mentioned, we don't need any LMIA. We just have to essentially prove that this person has been actively working for the company outside of Canada for 1 year within the previous 3 years. And this person has either a managerial role or a highly skilled role within the company. And so that grants the transition to come to Canada under this program. Global Talent Stream has been big, has been doing fantastic for the past couple of years. So Canada introduced this program a couple of years ago again. The whole idea, the whole essence is to bring tech workers, absorb highly skilled talent people to the companies in Canada. So people can, so the employers in Canada, there are certain tech positions that are listed under this category, including software engineers, software developers, any of the managerial roles in tech industry, and a whole bunch of other positions too. Employers in Canada will apply again to Service Canada Labor Division for labor market impact assessment. Process is very fast and efficient. It's being done in 10 days, 10 business days. The LMIA is advertising exempt. So classically employers, if they want to hire somebody in Canada, they would have to advertise for the role, which is a daunting process. Immigration sort of eliminated that on the GTS LMIA applications just to make it, kind of more efficient and fast track. So no advertising, but in return, employers are going to provide certain commitments to the government. Part of those commitments are there's relatively like a couple of point forms on those commitments, but the majority is focused on hiring Canadian PRs and citizens in the company in Canada, raising the revenues, transferring the skills, and a whole bunch of other points. Which in my experience, typically companies that are growing in Canada, it's sort of inherent. It comes with the nature of it. They're going to grow the revenue. They're going to hire more employees. They're going to, establish workshops or sort of like training processes for people, highly skilled people, to train the others. So it kind of comes with a package. It's not really onerous process, I would say, or onerous kind of commitments that the employer has to provide. And that's why this program has been doing super great within the past few years. Employers love it. It's pretty fast, pretty efficient. And typically the tech worker can be in Canada within 1 month after initiating the process. Now, I kind of have to add a side note that this 1 month was expected pre-COVID. Post-COVID, some countries are still going through, high numbers of infections. So the consulate services and the other organizations are kind of shut down or have a limited sort of service. So that affected the processing times and might get longer from certain countries. Brazil is included. So 1 month is not expected anymore. It's probably going to take a bit longer, but it's still considered one of the very fast processes, immigration programs.
Thank you. This is amazing. So I'm gonna go to Josh now because I know that he unfortunately he can't stay with us for the whole program. But so Josh, you've been helping skilled workers for many years now, and the immigration process sometimes can be very overwhelming. We all know that. So can you tell us a little bit about what are the main skills needed in Canada, and how can Visto help immigrants narrow the programs best fitted for their needs?
Yeah, it's a good question, Carolina. And another way I can kind of answer this question is maybe break down 2 or 3 of the most popular routes, and people can kind of fit themselves into one of them. The hardest part that most of our users have is figuring out where to start in the process, right? There's all these programs. In fact, there might even be too many immigration programs. The hardest part is which one do I fit under so I can actually start submitting my application. So kind of the 3 most common, and I mean, you can look at the numbers too, in terms of volume per year. We're going to accept, we're not going to talk about visitor visas today because I'm assuming most people on this call, they want to come and do more than just visit in Canada. But the 3 major ones I'll talk quickly about is Express Entry, as Sonia touched on, which is a PR program, so permanent residence program for skilled workers. The second one is the study permit. So obviously those who are looking to come and study in Canada. And then the third is the work permit, some of which Sonia touched upon. So for example, the global talent stream, the intra-company transfer, even the owner-operator LMIA, those are all forms of different types of work permits. So I'll start with Express Entry. This is a points-based system. So it's actually quite clear what you need. Well, it's hard to figure out from the government website what you need, but for the professionals or people who've looked into the program, you can simply look at the points breakdown to see what's needed. So to save everybody a lot of time, for Express Entry right now, especially if you are outside of the country, you're thinking about getting PR coming through Express Entry, probably the major 2 factors, we'll call it 3 factors: age, because any year above the age of 29, you start losing points on your Express Entry score. Number 2 is education. Having at least, I'd say probably a bachelor's. Probably you'd need at least a master's, to be honest, at this point. So by master's, I mean master's or higher. So a master's degree, a professional degree, like a law degree, medicine, something like that, or a PhD or some, doctorate level equivalent. And third would be a language exam. So everybody needs to complete either an English or French language exam in order to even create their express entry profile and figure out their score. So for those considering express entry, I'll say if you have a master's or other professional degree or higher, if you can score pretty well on an English or French language exam, and if you, what was the third thing I meant? And you're probably age. So depending on the first two, if you're above the age of 35, it can be really difficult. So express entry definitely favors those who are on the younger end. So that's option number one. Let's say you don't fall into that, or you want to consider some other options. Probably the most popular would be the study permit, because most of those things I just discussed can kind of be thrown out the window. The study permit is a little bit more decided on, number one, can you be accepted to a Canadian college or university, which depends on what you want to study, right? Undergrad degree, master's degree, PhD, everybody's different. It's kind of a little bit more based on your previous education, your previous grades, your previous work experience. So that's a little bit situational. I don't want to make a generalization on this webinar. But if, maybe you have a bachelor's degree or you have a college degree and you're seriously considering upskilling, getting that master's, even getting a 1 or 2 year diploma or college certificate in Canada, then coming on a study permit can be a really, really good option. Probably the biggest factors you're going to want to keep in mind are the costs, obviously. So it's not cheap to come and pay international tuition to come and study in Canada. There are ways around that, student loans and stuff like that. But finances, again, are a very subjective and personal decision that individuals will have to make. Lastly is the work permit. The work permit, if you can find a job, is probably the quickest and maybe the most straightforward way to come into Canada. Now, the big problem with that is it's very hard to find a job from outside of Canada. So for two reasons. Number one, typically finding a job in Canada requires that you get sponsored by a company, right? As Sonia alluded to, either through something like an LMIA, the Global Talent Stream, the intra-company transfer, whatever it may be. The second reason is that COVID is not helping with the job market here in Canada and probably any country around the world. So if you're in some high demand occupation, likely in tech, so in Canada, I would say if you work in tech, especially if you're experienced, if you work in healthcare, maybe you might have an edge. It's still going to be difficult, but you might have a chance through the work permit. Really quickly to kind of summarize that, this is what we do in the Visto portal. So if one of the three of those or two or three of the three of those sound interesting to you, you can sign up on Visto.AI for free, and we break down each and every one. So you can determine your express entry score. You can see if, maybe applying to a university is right for you. We have guides on how to try and find work in Canada with lists of companies that have sponsored workers on LMIAs before, all this type of stuff. And then if you need additional legal help, you can book it all from a familiar face to my right here, Sonia, all within the portal as well. So it's all in one place. So that's it for me. We're right on the dot here where I actually have to jump, but Carolina, hopefully that was a helpful answer. And if anybody does want to connect with me, check out Visto.AI if you think you'd find it useful, or make sure to spell my name right and add me on LinkedIn. And that's another great place to connect as well.
Thank you so much, Josh. That's definitely helpful. And for sure, if you have any questions, go to the platform or connect with Josh. And we have Sonia here staying with us to answer many questions. There's still a lot of stuff that we're gonna go through today. So back to you, Sonia. So we mentioned the startup visa, we mentioned international students, the skilled workers, express entry. So let's go with the startup visa because it's one of the most popular, the most interesting ones for especially for the Brazilian entrepreneurs. So this is how the program actually works and what are the requirements for a Brazilian entrepreneur, Brazilian startup to apply to the startup visa?
Okay, so Startup Visa Program, as I mentioned earlier, it hasn't been doing so great since the inception of the program because of so many factors. One of the biggest factors that I've been hearing, from my own clients and from the other, my colleagues that are working in this space, was that there's a disconnect between the startup company that's coming from Brazil or any other country to Canada. There's a cultural disconnect. There is different, methods of working in different countries kind of disconnect. So there has been some issues and it hasn't been doing great. Since, US started acting up on, not accepting H-1B visas or L1 visas anymore, or the graduates from the successful programs in US, or even Canada becoming even more, hotter spot for in the world for any other country, including Brazil. This program kind of started to ramp up. So I've been seeing a lot more activity for the companies that are trying to come to Canada within the past, I would say, 8 to 9 months. Startup Visa Program is a great program if you've got the support of the incubator, or Miryam knows the best, and angel investor or the venture capitalist company that is supporting you. So I'll just go through the eligibility requirements just briefly for everyone to understand what is it about. For a business that is foreign business that's trying to come to Canada, there has to be what we call a qualifying business requirements. What that means is that, the founder or the co-founder, they would have to show that they have at least 10% or more of the voting rights associated with the shares of the company. And there are up to 5, founders or 5 owners that can come with the same idea. So the idea has to be, the idea for the business has to be unique, has to be, doable in Canada. And that's something for the incubators to discuss and, sort of like get into the details of it and see how practical this idea is for Canada. And also, on top of that 10% that each owner have to have in the company, the owner and the incubator, or let's say another organization, venture capitalist in Canada, will have to have jointly at least 50% of the voting rights associated with the shares of the company. So that's at the time of applying for getting that letter of support from the incubator. At the time of becoming permanent resident in Canada, the founders or the applicants, they have to show that this business has been incorporated in Canada, number 1. Number 2, this business has been active in Canada. So there has been some sort of movement in Canada, a genuine movement, and the most essential part of the business is being done in Canada. So let's say for a Brazilian company, it's not possible for a company, let's say ABC, to still stay in Brazil hoping that they get their PR through a startup within the next 12 months, but they don't want to move anything to Canada. They still want to continue in Brazil until the PR comes through. I mean, that's not possible. So they have to show that there has been activities in Canada, the company has been registered, and the most part of the business activities are being done in Canada. So that's number 1. Number 2, letter of support that we've been talking about a lot. So as part of the organizations that are, qualified by Immigration Canada, are incubators, are angel investors, and are venture capitalists. The name of, all these organizations are all listed under Immigration Canada's website. I mean, Latam Startup is one of them, and Miryam can talk to it in more details, I'm sure. So the incubators will evaluate this whole business idea and the feasibility of this idea getting into the Canadian market. Once they're happy with everything and once they're satisfied that they can provide a support, they'll issue the letter of support. That's the initial step to start the immigration process. Without the letter of support, there's not going to be any immigration process involved. Once we get that, then we look into the other factors. Language exam, language ability is also very big because people, founders, owners that are expecting to run business in Canada are expected to know the official languages in Canada, either French or English or both. I mean, if you know French is not mandatory, it's a bonus. If you know it, great. If you don't, you just have to only take the English test, either IELTS or CELPIP or any other test that's qualified under Immigration Canada. And, have score of at least 5, which is sort of like a medium range in English. You're expected to be able to communicate fairly well, and so 5 is not really the highest score expected. But at least if you can score that, you'll be good. You'll be able to apply without any language ability test. Your file will be refused, so there's no way of continuing the PR application without that. Proof of financial support. Applicants are expected to provide financial support for themselves and their dependent family members. So let's say, assume that a family is coming, the founder and his spouse and 2 other children. Depending on the number of people in the family, there is this grid and, kind of like a chart that, how many family members and how much for that number of people should be brought to Canada. So Government of Canada is not providing any financial support for these people at the time of coming to Canada. They are expected to be able to handle their own financials and sort of like carry the family, in Canada, at least for the beginning. And that minimum threshold is something that's expected from every applicant. They can provide the bank letter or a bank statement or any document to prove that they have that amount in their account. And again, there's no certain amount. It really goes with the number of people in the family. With respect to processing times and fees, processing times, the beauty of startup visa is that once you apply for a PR, you are allowed to apply for work permit at the same time. And so work permit is being done, the processing time is a lot faster, obviously. So the expectation is for the founders to be able to come to Canada earlier while their PR program, while their PR application is in process, to initiate their business activities in Canada. So the processing time pre-COVID and everything, I just like the way that, COVID kind of divided everything. So pre-COVID, the processing time used to be 12 months. Post-COVID has been longer. I'm hearing 16 months, 18 months in some cases. But regardless, because work permit is being done faster and the person will be in Canada anyways, I don't think the processing time on PR matters a lot in this case. Applications, like I said, once the application is initiated for PR, the work permit for all the family members, if you have any dependent children included in the file, they can apply for study permit. And your spouse can get open spouse work permit. You can all travel to Canada, start your life in Canada until your PR application comes through. In terms of fees, there are some fees. Again, it all goes down to how many family members are included. I'm not going to make it more complicated with throwing numbers there. I guess for each individual application, I'll look into the details and I'll provide the exact number of, dollar amount that is requested for the fees. And pretty much that's a wrap for a startup visa program. I guess I'll try to, in the interest of time, I've tried to be as generic as possible. Now, once we get to Q&A, if somebody has more specific questions, then I'll try to address it there.
Thank you. And yes, if you guys have any questions, please keep typing them on the Q&A box and we will answer all the questions after the event. So I have actually one question for Sonia before we move on to Miryam and Raquel. Are there any differences between provinces for the startup visa, or is it a federal program or is it a provincial program?
So startup visa is a very good question. It's a federal program. So immigration programs are kind of divided into federal and provincial. Majority of the immigration programs are federal, but some are provincial. This specific program, startup visa, is federal. So it doesn't matter where you're going to settle. It's just that whichever province that you go in, you probably have to have incubator or some sort of an organization within that province to support you. And as long as you have the letter of support from that organization, you're good to go.
Great, perfect. So, I mean, let's go to Miryam then. So Latam Startups has been a designated incubator for startup visa for some time now. They have supported a lot of companies through their boot camps and then through the support letter as well. So Miryam, as an incubator, what are you looking for like in a company when you're to issue the support letter and to help them to go through that path of the startup visa? What are the requirements for you?
Yeah, thank you for that question. This is very important for us when we are actually screening applications and all that. So not sure if I can share my screen here, but I will do a quick round of what we have in the website. So when you go to a website, you will see programs, and you will see that we basically have 3 levels of programs. Now, we are a nonprofit organization, so that means that we don't take equity over startups. We don't invest in startups directly. We can connect with investors when it's the right time to do it, but we are a service fee incubator. So that means that, we basically, don't take any participation on your company. Now, for us, we have 3 different programs, but in the criteria, and this is very important for people to know, is that has to be a technology company with intellectual property. This has been, one of the main questions. Sometimes we get technology companies, but they don't have intellectual property, or they cannot fill out for intellectual property. So in those cases, we cannot take them into the Startup Visa program or the Scala Bootcamp program as an initial step. We may recommend the corporate program for them, which is a different program that we have for companies that are not looking into the co-founders necessary move to Canada, or they are looking to any other type of visas. So the second thing is that they have to be financially stable. So we don't take companies in ideation. That's one of the things. At least it's a company in biotech or clean tech or green tech, which has they require more time to commercialize. If they have funding, then we can take a look. But usually we take companies that are in some revenue level, so they can sustain themselves here in Canada. Canada is a very expensive country, especially cities as Toronto. So you cannot take this lightly. Like I hear people that have $30,000, $20,000, that's not going to be enough to sustain yourself or a company in a year, at least not under the Startup Visa program. And what the government really wants to see in this program is companies that are highly scalable. So they are not looking for small, medium businesses. Canada has 97% of small, medium businesses already in the country. So they are not looking for another one that is a small, medium business. They really are looking for big companies. And I have to say, half of our community is Brazilian. We currently have in our community one startup that is pre-unicorn. This is just one round to become a unicorn. But we also have companies that they are probably in seed or pre-seed, depending. And sometimes they have their own funding to, to run during the 52 weeks that the government is asking. So, of course, after all that, we are requiring that we can go to an interview and see if we have coachable teams, people that really can listen to the mentors and listen what are the next steps for them. This is kind of a mention that probably Sonia made at the beginning, saying that, sometimes, companies that are coming here, adapting to their new work environment is a little bit different. And I will say, yes, this one of the biggest problems that we have is the cultural business behavior. And that's why we go into phases in order to help these companies to understand better what is the expectation in the market and if really this is something for them. Many times during the process, they realize that, maybe they need another market, or maybe they need a little bit more time to adapt. And that's totally okay for us. So of course, co-founders have to be willing to relocate in the market and have a English level that is proficiency, because our mentors, they all speak, of course, a good level of English, and if you are not able to communicate or pitch your idea, then it's going to be extremely difficult to work with the teams. Now, this is not just for the CEO or the main co-founder. We require this for all members of the team that are actually willing to relocate to Canada. So let's say if you have 5 co-founders in your company and 2 of them are willing to relocate, we are looking that those 2 that want to relocate, they will come with a good English level. So now in the 3 steps that we have, you can see the 3rd step is the Startup Visa Program, because we kind of are evaluating step by step companies. And this is our own requirement for the companies based in our experience. As I mentioned before, we work with 100% international startups. Since 2017, even before we were designated company for the Startup Visa Program, we have the same system. We have been improving the system and making the adjustment and changes. But even from before, we were working in this way because we know it's the best way to adapt companies into this market. So far, since 2017, we have helped over 90 startups in coming to the country or validate ideas. Currently, we have the visa since 2019, and since 2019, we have approved 14 companies. In between them is Raquel's company, Athimos, that was approved at the beginning of 2019, I believe. So the Scala Bootcamp program, I will go quickly, so I don't going to take too much time in this part, but the Scala Bootcamp program basically is a validation program. For us, it's very important that in 2 weeks, we have a very intense program where we are looking at the aspects, more challenging aspects that companies coming here are going to have in order to, have a company here. We have a volunteer working with them in market research, marketing, and business development in order to find out what is the best way and strategy to enter to the country. Many times, companies realize in this step that they may not be ready, and those that are ready will continue in the second program, which is the soft landing program, this one here. And this program is for 2.5 months. And this is a market entry program where companies we are actually expecting companies to be incorporated in Canada, but with a solid market entry strategy. So we are looking at, marketing strategies. We are looking at all the legal aspects that are important for the company, and as well, customer service and customer validation for them. So for us, it's very important at the end of the Scala Bootcamp program to diagnose the company, make sure that, we are going to tackle all those challenges that they are going to have, that this actually is a valuable, company for the market, and then they will continue in this step. Once they finish this step, they are eligible to become a part of the Startup Visa program, but they still have to pitch the board of directors of Latam Startups, which I'm not included in that part. So once they make the pitch to the board and the board decide this is a company that Canada will favor, then they will accept them into the Startup Visa program. If not, then we are going to wait 6 months to see if the company can adjust based on recommendations, and then reapply again for that step in our accelerator. So basically, those are the steps. Once they start the Startup Visa program, we immediately give the supporting letter so they can actually start the process of the documentation. That's important for us because our focus is really on the business, and we don't want to be distracted with all the parts of legal aspects of the company. So we dedicate the first month of the program to make sure that they have all the legal documents that they require in order to don't have their head in other parts, and then be working in the business acceleration program, which is in sales and funding in this stage, in the 3rd stage. So I guess that's how we work. But I'm happy to take questions once we finish with the presentations here.
Thank you, Miryam. So just because of time, so I'm going to go to Raquel now, because Raquel, she's a serial entrepreneur. She's been an entrepreneur in Brazil, as she mentioned before, for many, many years. And She went through the startup, the program at Latam Startups, and she went through the startup visa program as well. So Raquel, why don't you share with us a little bit of your experience with not only the startup visa process, but as well, like how was the whole process of moving the company to Canada, moving your family to Canada. So if you can kind of give us a little bit of your take on this too.
Yes, thank you, Carolina. We were the first company that applied in Latam Startups. It was really a great experience for us and also a challenge because we were the first ones. So of course we had to study together and go deeply involved in the process to understand and pass through all the first stages. I would say that in the beginning we decided to study by ourselves. And that's a lesson to learn. You have to keep this process with experts because you have to focus in your business when you are here. I deeply studied about it, but then I realized it was so important to me that I couldn't make anything wrong. So we hired a company to help us. And I could say that that was really important because all the paperwork, all the strategy we did together. And then we were very successful in that part. After we applied all the documents and all the information, we received our permanent residency in less than 3 months. So it was actually something very unusual, but it was really good for us. We did the application for the work permit, as Sonia said, but the permanent residency came before. So it was really good, at least to not worry anymore about that and focus on the business. I came also only with my daughter. I'm divorced. So for me, it was really a key factor to be here in a legal way, working with the accelerator to focus in the business strategy and also build our connections and network. That is really important too. So I would say that for the preparation aspect, I think some of the key factors to be successful in Canada is preparation before coming. Because you do have a lot of things, not only in immigration, but even in the business aspect, you must be prepared financially because things happen. The pandemic is a lesson for us. We cannot predict everything. So we have to manage risks. So not only financially speaking, but also emotionally speaking. You must be prepared to be tolerant, support pressure, be ready to be humble, to learn and ask the right questions and listen to others. During the incubator process, that was really important for us because not only Miryam, but the whole team and the mentors, they guide us to rethink about the business and readapt for the Canadian market, ask for customers and build all the interviews to organize again the strategy. And another thing that is really important is communication etiquette and all the cultural differences. Because when you come to another country, you have to understand that the way you communicate and the way you behave in your own country sometimes is different in the other one. Canada, I think Toronto is the more multicultural capital of the world, I would say. So you have this experience that you are involved in multicultural environment. We worked with an Indian volunteer, we worked with Chinese, Italian people. So we have to understand that we have to respect the other cultures and also learn with them. So for me, one key factor is to listen and understand that there are cultural differences and also all the communication etiquette. And this you can learn from your country before you come. To build connections, you must understand that sometimes all the tools that you're gonna use are different. For example, in Brazil, we use a lot of WhatsApp and Facebook. Here we use LinkedIn. That's a key tool that really needs to be used. And it's not only to find a job, because in Brazil, LinkedIn is to find a job. No, when you are an entrepreneur, here in Canada, it's crucial to use your LinkedIn to expose yourself, to show what you're looking for, to connect with other entrepreneurs, to find partners, to show what you're looking for, and also be ready to answer. When you do the connection, all the Canadians are gonna ask you, what can I help? What can I do for you? And so you have to be ready to ask what you need. And sometimes you're not, because you're just building the connections and you are not ready to answer the basic questions. Actually, what do you need from me? What can I do for you? And they really do. So if you do that from Brazil or from the country you are, you can be much more prepared to build these connections and build all your communication material, one pager, all your deck and website. Sometimes I've been guiding some entrepreneurs now that I'm here and they don't have a website ready in English and with a proposal, a value proposition for the Canadian market. So these are some lessons I took. When I came, I did a lot of preparation, as I told, but at the same time, I think I could have done much more contacts before I came to actually create my network in Canada in a better way. So now I'm here for almost 2 years, and I can say that now I know more people, but of course I've been an entrepreneur for 20 years in Brazil. So I do have a huge network there. So it's completely different. Of course, my background is important here, and Canadians value a lot your background, and this is important to build trust. But you have to show yourself here and show that you are serious, that they can trust you, that your business is important. Our company here is a long sales business. It's not something that you're gonna sell like bananas, because it's electronic health record. So we are gonna change all the hospital procedure to put all the clinical patient information in a cloud-based platform. So they must trust a lot the team that is involved, and they must trust the company and all the story and our backgrounds. So for me, the accelerator is a key factor. The immigration company and the advisors are essential. And I would say the mentors and all the connections we build here open doors in the Canadian market, and also BCCC, because Carolina and the team are always helping me to find the right connections. Even Sonia was introduced to us by Carolina. So I think some of the key factors is to build a strategy, be financially prepared and emotionally, and to bring my family. I would say for my daughter is the easiest part, because of course her father had to agree because he is in Brazil, and also my family support was essential. But for her, the first 2 months were difficult, but afterwards, when after she was at school with new friends and all the routine rebuilt, now she is really happy. Her English is better than mine, and she doesn't want to come back. So for me, I would say that come as soon as you can if you're planning to come, but be prepared for that.
Speaking of coming as fast as you can, I'm just launching another poll here for who is still with us in terms of timeline for the immigration process. But in the meantime, so Raquel, there's a new study that came out recently saying that for Brazilian entrepreneurs, the main key challenge in Canada is networking. Do you agree with it? I think you're on mute now.
For sure, I agree. One of the key factors is to build your reputation and trust. And for that, you must be very known. and you must connect with trustable connections, and show yourself that you are serious. Because if you think about Brazilians, we are very known that we are an innovative and creative community, that the entrepreneurs build a lot of innovation, but at the same time, we have to show that we are serious involved and we are prepared for the Canadian market. So these connections, they can refer us, they can connect us with the right people, and this is crucial.
Amazing. So since we're running out of time before we open for questions, and if the audience has any questions, please add it to the Q&A box and we'll be happy to answer. So any last like advice? So I'll start with Sonia. Do you have any last advice for our audience today? When
Just have to make sure that I unmute myself first. Yeah,
Okay.
okay. So a piece of advice.
You are on mute, Sonia.
Oh my goodness, with this mute program. Okay. I don't know, I touched it again. I don't know if you guys are aware, but last week, Government of Canada and Minister of Immigration introduced what we call it immigration level plans for the next 3 years. So starting from 2001 to 2023, they're expecting to accept a huge number of immigrants into the country. This is unprecedented. I mean, the precedent goes back to probably 1941 or 3. Josh would have corrected me if he was here. That was the only time that this number was accepted into Canada. And then afterwards, it was always a lot less than this. So this is to, help the economic recovery post-COVID, to avoid the recession that everybody's talking about, and for all the other reasons. Canada is really bending backwards with immigration programs and how friendly they're acting in terms of facilitating foreign nationals in the country. So it's the best time to apply. It just couldn't be better than this, with respect to the number that they're accepting, with respect to the programs that they're offering for entrepreneurs, for individuals. All I can say is that if anybody's thinking about it, to Raquel's point, try to apply as soon as possible. Don't linger on it too much. I just can't stress enough. This is the best time to apply.
Amazing. Miryam, any last advice?
Yeah, I will say the same, following Sonia's, try to do your best also to find the right people to help you. Not everybody has to apply for the Startup Visa program. There are too many other programs and there are too many other options. In case that you are not ready for that one, you certainly can apply for other ones. Now, I have to say, for example, we receive a lot of inquiries and messages about, what about my case? I would like to see my case. We're not immigration lawyers, so we are not, again, focusing that part. So I will say find a good lawyer if your case is just about immigration, but if it's about business, we are more than happy to take a look of your business. We are currently in open applications for 2021. We just have 2 cohorts a year. And we finish in November 15 opening applications. So my best recommendation for startups is that if you're ready for a startup visa program and for the first step, which is the Scala Bootcamp, just apply directly and we will take a look of your case. We don't take calls or things like that because we receive like 4 or 5 applications per day. It is very difficult to handle all of them. But yeah, we are here to help you. If you have a business case, then please just contact us if you need it.
Miryam, is there an application fee to apply, or are you only approved?
Yeah, no, there is no application fee. Once that they are accepted into the program, there is a fee, but we usually receive over 120, 150 applications in less than 1 month. And we can receive up to 20 companies and max because of our capacity right now. So yeah, I will say, if you have a case, or you feel like you have a case, you can always apply. We always get a feedback for all companies that are applying.
Amazing. Raquel, any last considerations?
Yes, I think I would say three advices. One is to prepare as better as you can your entrepreneur journey for the application. Talking about the application for the incubator, some of the companies are not ready for that. Miryam is saying that she's received so many applications, and to make the decision, they must be ready for that. So I've been guiding companies that really want to prepare their communication material, their cultural information, and also change their mindset to think global. So we have been doing that to prepare for the first step before coming or before applying for the incubator. And this is a key factor because you have to think in a different way to go global. Brazil is a huge country, and sometimes we just think inside because we have a lot of consumers. When we change our mindset to think global, it's a process. So we need to be ready for that. Start building your network from your country with associations, virtual events. We have a lot here in Canada now with the pandemic more. So we have a lot of network that can be done in virtual events, and look for the best professionals that you can find. Even for the application, find the best incubator for your field of business, and also a professional mentor that can guide you through the process with a good experience. Sometimes I know that entrepreneurs ask questions for other ones that had passed through the same situations, but rules change. So be careful. It's very good to receive feedbacks and information from other entrepreneurs, but sometimes they don't know the differences that are happening, and they may give you wrong advices. I did that. I asked a lot of questions. I did a lot of research with other entrepreneurs, even in other provinces, to understand all the startup visa and all the challenges I would pass through. And some of them were in a different stage, or they were passing through another moment. So look for the right people to advise you.
Perfect, thank you. So I don't know if we have, so far we haven't. I have actually one question for Sonia. So we talked about most of the immigration processes. We haven't really touched a lot into like the skilled workers space, but we know that there's a lot of options with technology workers especially. So for example, a Brazilian software engineer or software developer that's looking into coming to Canada and have an employer in Canada, someone that wants to hire them, what is the fastest way for that person to come to Canada?
That's actually a very good question. So if somebody has an employer already in Canada who's willing to offer a job or validate a job offer for that person, there are two ways that the person can apply. They can either apply if they have other eligibility requirements, and if they meet the minimum score within the Express Entry program, they can either apply from outside of Canada through the Express Entry program, apply for PR, which obviously is going to be taking about 6 months to 1 year for them to get to Canada. So that's one option. The second option would be the Global Talent Stream program, the GTS LMIE that I mentioned and I briefly touched upon. I wish I had more time to talk about it, and would probably have to set up another sort of webinar to only focus on GTS or tech workers in general. There's a lot to talk about. So GTS is also another qualified category for this type of situation. The employer can apply for LMIA. I'm sorry, I'm right beside the fire station, and you might hear some noise going in the background. Apologize for that. So GTS is also another great program. The employer can apply for LMIA, and then the person can apply for work permit from Brazil to come to Canada. This process is a lot faster. The reason that I'm saying that this is also one of the good options is that it's a lot faster. The person probably can land in Canada within a month or two after the application, start the employment here, and then apply for Express Entry after a year of working here.
Got it. Perfect. So Last question to Miryam then. You mentioned that like one of the biggest shocks or the biggest issues for companies coming to Canada is the cultural differences and the cultural shock. What would be the second biggest reason because that companies don't succeed in the program when trying to move their business here?
Well, thank you for that question. It comes to either financial stability. Sometimes people really, they feel like, you know, sometimes we are being too strict into tell them about, you know, their financial projections and stability, but it really matters. And when we see sometimes companies running out of money because, you know, getting the first customer, especially in Canada, like I always said to companies, nobody really comes to Canada because the Canadian market is too small. But, you know, they come either to enter to the US or Europe. And even though, you know, this adaptation into enter to US and Europe will take some time, and getting the first customer can take over 8 months to a year, and building up revenue is not going to happen from one day another. Getting investments certainly is not going to happen right away. Is faster to get probably grants, and to get grants you have to pay yourself payroll and do certain things that you need to do. Canada has over 100 grants for international for startups that are located here, so it's the best way. So that's why sometimes investors are hesitating into investing in startups, because there is free money outside. So they're like, why are not you going for the free money? But yeah, this free money is not immediately available. So really the financial stability is something that they should be looking at as a second thing for why startups fail. Is even in the you know, other chapters around the world, is always because of that. Yeah.
No, this is great advice. We know that Canada is not a cheap country, especially if you're coming from Latin America with the different exchange and the currency valuation. It can become very, very expensive. So I would like, if we have no more questions, I don't see anything here on the Q&A. So I would like to thank you all for being here with us today. Thank your panelists for time, for availability to join us. I also like to thank our annual sponsors, Vale, EGC Export Development Canada, Brookfield Lundin Mining, Sescom Barrio, and Votorantim Samari Cement for their support. We hope the information shared here today was fruitful and relevant for your business. If you have any questions or any further, like if you think about anything or any questions after this is done, please feel free to send us a message. We'll be happy to connect you with Sonia or with Miryam and Raquel as well to answer those questions. And we hope that you stay engaging with the BCCC. Follow us on social media. We have about like 10 other events planned for the next 5 weeks. So there's a lot of things happening. So follow us, go to our website, braskenchamber.org. And I hope you all have a great day. Stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll see you all soon. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Carolina, for hosting.
Bye.
Bye, ladies.
Bye-bye.